talking about Twitter a little bit today.
So it's pretty interesting what they've been up to, and there's been a number of articles talking about how they're creating this user directory, this white pages of Twitter users, basically because they ended the relationship with Google. It's harder to get access to the Twitter users and individual tweets in Google, at least currently, and this is sort of an end run around that. But it's sort of interesting how Twitter's doing it, given that it's definitely geared towards SEO and not very usable for actual users, being that it's a user directory.
So talk a little bit more about exactly what they're actually doing. We know that they're trying to say, okay, we're trying to gear this toward the SEO. We're trying to do these things. Explain it, go a little bit more in depth.
Well, we're seeing it right here on the screen. They basically published your white pages for Twitter, which if you look at how they've done it, and it's sort of listed by first name, and then there's sort of these ranges, it's really clunky. It's kind of ironic that it's as clunky as it is. If you keep on clicking through, eventually you'll get to your profile. Clearly this is made more for computers in terms of SEO than it is for actual users, which is, you know, always the case when we're talking about digital marketing. Is we sort of talk about the opposite ways, make a great experience for a human user, and then, oh, by the way, make sure that it's also SEO optimized so that it's good for computers. In this case, it's probably one of the more blatant examples of something that's clearly optimized for computers.
There's quite
really,
a few Allens, by the way.
And really,
this right now.
boy, how special I feel that there's dozens and dozens and hundreds of thousands of Allens that are named, you know, in their Twitter usernames. So this is just interesting because they're recognizing that they need to play the game, but in a way they're kind of playing it maybe in an intentionally clunky way to sort of signal that, yeah, sure, we'll play your game, but there's better ways. Maybe we should get back together again and have the relationship that we had before.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, in your mind, does this almost necessarily take away from it, the experience itself? Because, I mean, Twitter was based on basically that entire user experience. I mean, that's what their whole mantra was at the start, and to kind of gear away from it, just to kind of almost prove a point in a sense.
You know, it's
interesting.
It's funny because you're right. There's a lot of things that I've always liked about Twitter, the open API, the fact that it really is very efficient as a communication mechanism. When you use the lists, it's a great way. You know, it's kind of a social network. It's kind of a communication tool, but it just works. And there's always been this idea that having your presence online, your social profile, is really important in terms of getting found. And when Twitter had the relationship with Google, it was easier to find people on Twitter. Now it's less easy.